Can we please stop calling it a rebrand? It's a California facelift, okay? What they're trying to do is they're trying to hide all the wrinkles. They're trying to hide any of the negative stuff. There's no rebrand here. It's just a nice little Hollywood nip and tuck.
I'm coming over for one.
Meghan and Harry have found themselves dropping the word royal from their domain name. So if you want to hear the latest from the lovely couple, instead of typing www.sussexroyal.com, you now just type sussex.com. Could this be a sign of the family rift expanding ever further? Back with me now, I'm delighted to say, the panel are here, Ryan, Emma and Andrew. This is my favourite bit of the show, obviously, Harry and Meghan, or as they now call themselves, Prince Harry and Meghan. What's all that about? That's what it says on the website.
I'm also really interested, how did they buy Sussex.com? That's...
Yeah, I mean, I've got a house in Sussex, right? I don't grant them the use of the name Sussex.
But also, it's a county that's been around for, what, how many gazillions years?
Yeah. And do you know what it also is? It's also now a catch-all, I think, trademark now for English sparkling wine made in Sussex. It's actually called Sussex.
She's also using her royal crest, which she was given on their marriage.
Right.
And there's been eyebrows raised in the palace about that. There's lots of bits of this website. If you go to it, it's all sort of... They still have sussexroyal.com as part of it. Right. They have Archewell as part of it. They have archetypes. They have all these different parts of their sort of brand. But they're on manoeuvres. Something is happening.
Well, it redirects, doesn't it? From the old site. Yeah. I was checking it out, actually. I looked at wales.com, which obviously still looks for Wales. I looked at gloucester.com, which is about the Gloucester, Massachusetts. I looked at york.com, which is the leading heating and cooling industry website, you see. So all of these things... Well, you're talking about money. I mean, a lot of these sites, so car.com, for example, was the most expensive website which changed places. The domain name was 872,000 million.
Well, I'm amazed nobody had Sussex.com.
Well, didn't they put this
I think the royal family acquired it some decades ago.
A number of years ago, yes.
They set it up in... The domain name was established in 1995. You wonder whether they had it or they just swooped in and taken it for their...
because he was not the Duke of Sussex, presumably, when they bought the domain name. No. Maybe they should send him a bill.
It's very clear that they are still using their royal branding to sell themselves. It's very, very clear that they still push themselves as that, otherwise they wouldn't still be using, you know, if they really wanted to leave.
And it's all a bit sort of cloying, isn't it, as well? It's all about humanitarian works and well, there it is there.
So
I'm puzzled by the...
feminist and a great... And he's a great humanitarian. A military veteran.
Celebrating
and all
the
of this
Invictus
stuff.
Games, which are brilliant. I always stand up for Harry and Meghan. They've got a little element of that. Invictus Games.
Why can they not just call themselves Harry and Meghan, though? They don't want to be royal. They don't want to be part of the family.
Well, they said they didn't, but they do, and they wanted titles for their children.
Right. But why call himself Prince Harry on, you know, what is effectively...
Because the Americans love it, and it's making them a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a brand. It's a very good brand, and brands are very valuable.
I'm told there's no mention of Netflix in this new website either, which is
another deal. You do wonder if this is a headache that King Charles doesn't actually want at the moment.
Well, the trouble is they can't stay out of the limelight, can they? I mean, every time you hear them going, I don't want my privacy invaded, they do something else which puts them back in the limelight.
It's really odd timing as well, isn't it, Mike? If you think about the week or the couple of weeks that the royal family, the senior royals, have had in this country, then Harry coming over, all those questions about that visit, apparently he wouldn't... It's been reported tonight that Prince Harry wouldn't be in the room with Camilla.
Yes, but I suspected that was the case because some people were saying, oh, he had this meeting with his father and Camilla. And I was like, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have been there. And she probably chose not to be rather than it was his choice. Because I don't think she wants to see the little scrote, does she?
You only go back to the book of how scathing he was.
He was horrible about her. Yeah. And, you know, you can understand it. You know, his mother... was left by his father for another woman, and you know some people don't get over that. Some people have grown up enough to get over it. He's obviously not grown up at all, is he?
Yeah, but there's being angry at your father's new partner or old partner, new partner. But there's then making horrific, really horrible.
But also he's angry with everyone. I mean, he's angry with his family. He's angry with the media. He's angry with, anyone who says anything about him. He's just angry.
It's his career to be really, really deeply unhappy and bitter and just kind of,
I think he's 40 this year, isn't he?
Well, he's not young, that's for sure.
I think he's coming on 40 this year or next year.
Isn't that an age when you sort of get over all that stuff? Or at least...
He's been over-therapied, in my view. I mean, he's just been sitting in too many Californian echo chambers, telling everybody how terrible his life is. And the Americans are not buying it anymore. They're just not interested. They're like, mate, your life is not that bad. You're a prince. You've got a £30 million trust fund. You're married to a beautiful woman. You've got 2 nice kids. You live in a big mansion in Montecito, which looks like something out of a movie. And what's to be unhappy about? All he can think of doing is suing loads of people.
Well, and he's winning some of those cases. I mean,
yeah, but he's not winning the majority of them. He's winning some bits of them. But in the end, when is he going to stop?
Kinsey, very good morning. Look, Cherry makes a really good point.
Thank you.
When it comes to Harry and Meghan, the Invictus Games...
Not Meghan, Harry.
There's no criticism, really. I mean, it is absolutely brilliant.
It is, and I think that that's what's so exciting about the next few days, because Prince Harry is spending 3 days in Canada to promote the first ever winter edition, while meeting competitors from all over the world at this training camp. They're going to do 2 days meeting competitors at a ski resort, and then an additional engagement in Vancouver on Friday. So that's approximately 37 outfit changes for Meghan Markle. But Meghan has actually hinted previously that Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet might appear at this next Invictus Games, because she feels like they're old enough to appreciate it. So a lot to look forward to for Harry and Meghan.
Oh, you see, look, I do think the Invictus Games is impressive. We have to talk about this rebrand, Sussex.com. Kin's words this morning over here that what?
Can we please stop calling it a rebrand? It's a California facelift, okay? What they're trying to do is they're trying to hide all the wrinkles. They're trying to hide any of the negative stuff. There's no rebrand here. It's just a nice little Hollywood nip and tuck.
I'm coming over for one.
Can you explain what it is? Is it a website? Tell us more.
Do we care?
Yeah. So Sussex.com is a new website that Harry and Meghan quietly launched that explains, it's got bios on what their ultimate objectives are, bios on them as individuals, and then links to their projects, Archewell, the charity, Archewell Foundation, and then Archewell Productions. The Archewell Productions site has nothing on it, which surprised me because they have actually produced a couple of projects. Rosie, if I'm being honest with you, I am not as appalled or upset about this as a lot of other people. I feel like they have been advised by somebody to separate the foundation from the personal chaos, from the drama that typically surrounds them, and to separate the foundation from any sort of professional failures. For instance, when Harry would have a bad day at court or a good day at court, we'd hear from someone at Archewell. It distracts, it pollutes from the good that they're trying to do with this charity.
My favourite part, I was just catching the talk last night. My favourite part is how she describes herself. Have you got those lines in front of you, Kins? Because this is world-class self-esteem PR, isn't it? At its best. Have you got it in front?
I don't have it in front of me, but what I do remember, because I'm traumatized by it, was that she was a feminist, but then most influential woman and all these things she lists off are like, you are that because of the man you married. That is not feminism.
Joining us in the studio is the Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson. Good afternoon, Matt.
Hello.
What do you make of all this, then?
Well, the Harry and Meghan?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, it just never ends, really, does it? There's always something new. Just when they go quiet, just when there's a quiet period, they come back. The interesting thing about this is that they've been talking about a rebrand for such a long time. They've been saying, because Meghan hasn't really done anything for quite a long time now, since her podcast. So we're talking about, some new projects, and this is what we got. It turns out to be a website using the Sussex brand, which they were kind of told not to use Sussex Royal when they left.
So it's now an archive website.
Yeah, so their old website was called Sussex Royal.
Correct.
The new website is called just Sussex.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you could argue that they're doing what they're told. They're getting rid of the word royal. But is that a bit pedantic?
It links back to their Sussex Royal website. Now, it was the Queen's wishes that the Duke and Duchess wouldn't use their term royal when they went off in their financial endeavours into the United States. And everyone I spoke to at the palace has always said that, the Sussexes have adhered to that over the years, but 4 years later, they're now using the Sussex website. It links to the old Sussex Royal website. And also the coat of arms, I think, has raised a few eyebrows because we know in the last couple of years they have attacked the royal family on the Netflix show, on Oprah, but they have now used their coat of arms that was drawn up, their marital coat of arms.
So we're looking at it there. Actually, the picture we were just looking at, the dark blue one, that's the front page. So before this, that's the front page of their website. And the controversy that you're referring to, Matt, is the fact that they've got the coat of arms. We'll have a look at it in a minute, I'm sure, at centre stage of that website. And that's the coat of arms that was given to them for being royal. There it is, in the middle there, yeah.
Correct. And Meghan had a role in drawing up this coat of arms. It has the blue of the Pacific Ocean. It has the yellow sun rays for representing California. But
it's hers to use, right?
It's hers to use, but they turned their back on the royal family 4 years ago, and now 4 years later, critics might say that they're, using this royal symbolism, this royal crest, to push forward their new brand, which might upset some people.
There's not much to their new brand at the moment. I've had a little click around the website, and we've got CVs, basically. And this amused me because the top line of Harry's CV is that he's a humanitarian, military veteran, mental health advocate, and environmental campaigner. What's a humanitarian?
It's a do-gooder.
Is that essentially what a humanitarian is? So could we all be humanitarians?
Well, I think
is that a qualification?
I think he's. I think there was a phrase that they've used about helping people out. They've got a new phrase on there about doing good and showing up. I think it's called show up and do good. And we're still waiting for these these new projects. So maybe the humanitarian aspect of showing up, doing good, charitable work, the kind of things he would do when he was a working royal. Maybe that's what we'll see in the next year or so.
Can you guess, either of you, what Meghan, the very first thing that Meghan describes herself on her CV on this new Sussex.com website?
Philanthropist.
Matt?
She mentions about she's one of the Times most 25-inch...
That's in the second paragraph.
No.
She's a feminist, first and foremost, and a champion of human rights and gender equity.
So one of the things that they did post recently was video of a big meeting that they had, which they posted, although it had happened a while before, when the tech giants were giving evidence on in Washington at Capitol Hill. But they had convened a meeting of parents whose children had either fallen victim to some sort of crime or even taken their own lives as a result of online bullying or things on social media.
Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, very good afternoon to you in LA. I hope the rain has stopped now. I hear it's been pretty bad weather over there.
It is. I just wanted to remind you, Mike, that I am still on Spotify. Meghan might not be, but I'm still on Spotify.
Me too. I mean, my podcast can be found on Spotify, and they've never called me an effing grifter or said that I was untalented. So there you go, and I'm sure you're in the same boat.
High five, high five.
What can you tell me about Lemonada, apart from the fact that it's been started by women, which shouldn't be surprising in this day and age? I mean, people say, it's a female, all-women startup, as if, you should be surprised that women can start up a company. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Well, it was started in 2019. They had a particular podcast that they were trying to get out, and they were shopping it around, and there were no bites. So they just decided to start their own podcasting company. Right. They do have Sarah Silverman on their roster, who is a hilarious comedian. They have Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld, Elaine. Yeah. She's got a very successful podcast on this network, but that's... those are really the only names that stood out to me. Oh, Samantha Bee, who used to have a late night talk show here in the States, but no longer does, another female comedian. Yeah. So Meghan is going to be a big fish in a small pond. She's no longer competing with the likes of Joe Rogan. And, I do think that while she's going to probably have a lot more support in this space, it still is a huge fall from grace. It's not Spotify, it's not Audible, it's not iHeartRadio, it's not Audacity, it's not one of these major companies that you would expect to partner with the Sussexes after their huge launch after Megxit with the likes of Netflix and Spotify. It just kind of looks like, oh, who? Yes. What?
It looks very It looks very second division to me, I'm afraid. And I mean, I out of those names you just mentioned, I only really know Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who was in Veep, I think, as well as Seinfeld. Yes. But I mean, they are very much down the pecking order, aren't they, of what you might call sort of star-studded. If they turned up at the Super Bowl, for example, none of them would get their pictures in the paper because they're not big enough stars. And it just seems to me that the main problem that Meghan and Harry had with Spotify was that they're just not very good at working very hard, because they only produced, I think, 2 podcasts in a year, didn't they?
Well, Meghan gave them 12 episodes and Prince Harry gave them 1, with a Christmas special that primarily was the voice of Tyler Perry and Elton John and other celebrities. But let's run down, if you don't mind, let's run down some of the Spotify failures. Harry and Meghan initially assured us that their Spotify deal was going to amplify regular people making a difference in the world. Meghan interviewed Paris Hilton and Mariah Carey, okay? And who needs 17 producers on a podcast? There were way too many cooks in the kitchen for Meghan's original show. There was a lack of authenticity when you discovered that Meghan prioritized interviewing celebrities personally, but allowing producers to interview some of the featured experts while dropping Meghan's audio in later. The topics were irrelevant. Are we really complaining about stereotypes in Austin Powers movies? Let it go. Hollywood has matured beyond the type of comedy that Austin Powers was. Stop trying to solve problems that are no longer an issue. And Meghan often didn't allow her guests to breathe or expand on their answers. She'd hijack it and start, talking about herself and making that all about herself. I really do think that Spotify was disappointed that they didn't get more out of Harry. You and I have discussed it before, some of the ludicrous ideas Prince Harry brought to the table when they signed that initial Spotify deal, and Bill Simmons making fun of some of those so publicly. Again, and the Queen passing in the midst of Meghan Markle releasing her podcast too, I'm sure we know for a fact, according to the Daily Mail, we know that Meghan has blamed the Queen's death on some of her podcasting failures and the critical reception she received. But it's going to be hard to be successful when you've got that long list of things against you at your last place.
Now, Harry and Meghan have reportedly hit back at criticism of their new website, which uses their Sussex title and royal crest, saying it's their surname.
Despite stopping official royal duties and revealing controversial details about the so-called firm in high-profile interviews, podcasts and, of course, books, Harry and Meghan's new website appears to emphasise their royal status. Well, we're joined now by royal commentator Michael Cole. Michael, we know that as part of the Megxit deal, drawn up before our late Queen passed away, I think back in, when was it, 2020? I'm not good on my dates for this one. But it was essentially agreed that, look, if you're going to go and not be working royals, you can't commercialise the royal family, you can't use your HRH titles. And they weren't allowed to have a particular type of website they once wanted, which did just that. But it seems now that the late Queen has shuffled off her mortal coil, that they are pushing their luck a little bit with branding themselves Sussex.com. Is that right?
Good afternoon, Alex. Good afternoon, Kevin. Yeah, it was 8th of September 2022, sad day, when the late, great Queen did pass away. Yes, absolutely. The first thing to be said about this is that it is illegal, I'll repeat that, illegal to use a royal title or the name of a royal residence for commercial purposes. Now, we will remember that when the Duke and Duchess of Sussex scooted off, first of all, to Canada, then to California, which was probably their intended destination all the time, or perhaps Meghan's, it was made clear that they would retain the honorific titles, Her Royal Highness, His Royal Highness. These three letters are very big in royal circles, but they were not to use them for any purpose. And this will have gone down terribly badly at Buckingham Palace. We're not quite sure how they intend to use this new website, but it will be watched very, very closely, because any attempt to use it for commercial purposes will be frowned upon, certainly in this country. It's certainly just not on, and it's not what you do. And I think it's another example of them being slightly tin-eared. If they want to build bridges, this is possibly the worst possible way they could possibly do it. And it won't go down very well, and it will not actually rebound very well to their...
I would suggest, Michael, I doubt if the palace will do anything about this, although, as you're quite right, they'll be very annoyed. It is a blatant cashing in on their royal status. And I've taken the trouble to write down a few of these things, so you're all going to listen to it. Seriously, this is all on the website, and I want to discuss, apart from the fact that this website has been described as gauche and vulgar, and it is, this is what's on it about these two people. Archewell is described as dedicated to illuminating thought-provoking and diverse narratives that underscore our common humanity and celebrate community. Meghan is described as a feminist and champion of human rights and gender equality. Now, Harry is described as a humanitarian, a military veteran, mental health advocate, an environmental campaigner. And lastly, the office of Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, is shaping the future through business and philanthropy. What a load of self-glorifying claptrap. What is wrong with this too?
It was Kevin. It was Winston Churchill who described somebody as being overwhelmed with the exuberance of his own verbosity. Well, I think the copywriters, have gone mad there. But listen, I've been doing a little bit delving into my own dictionary. When we talk to the terms Archewell, two of the dictionary descriptions of Archewell are roguish and facetious. So I don't know whether they thought about that when they thought of Archewell, the name which is now being replaced by Sussex, because that is what is happening here. I thought that Archewell was originally named in honour of their son, Prince Archie. Why they couldn't have called him Prince Archibald, we don't know, and then allow him to shorten it to Archie, if you will. Also, another thing they've said isn't actually true. The surname of Prince Harry when he was born is Mountbatten Windsor. That is the surname of the House of Windsor. The late Duke of Edinburgh insisted to have his name, his family name, Mountbatten, put into the royal name. There was resistance to that from people like Harold Wilson when he was Prime Minister. But the Duke of Edinburgh did succeed. These names and these titles and honorifics do matter. They may not matter to you and me very much, but they do matter in royal circles. And how they're used and misused is very, very big medicine. And so I think they've made a very false step here.